I first met you at the Mae Young Classic when you were
Yes,
coming into ref, and I was like, wait, trying to get notes and like all this stuff to put
right.
together for me and Beth calling those matches with Michael Cole. But where does wrestling come into your life? I mean, you talk about working in gaming and working in all these other different jobs. How did wrestling become the thing for you?
So I never watched wrestling growing up, and that's a very like I think everyone watched wrestling growing up and then fell out of it and then got back into it or whatever. Like it was not a thing in my household. My dad said it was stupid and it was fake and we should never watch it. So I never grew up with that. I always grew up with video games. I was, as you can probably tell, I was a straight A student. Like I've always sort of been that person. I was a ballerina. I was into all of these other things. So it was after I graduated college, there was a WrestleMania, I think it was 27, where The Rock and Stone Cold were coming back. And all of my friends, who I have a lot of dude friends because of video games, they had all watched wrestling as kids and had fallen out of it. And this was the thing that got them back into it. They're like, oh, Rock and Stone Cold are coming back. We got to watch this thing. And so we treated it like the Super Bowl where everyone brings over something. We had like a box pool, like we're trying to figure all this out. And I literally have no idea what's happening. Like I'm Googling why the streak for The Undertaker is such an important thing because I'm
Yeah.
like, isn't it predetermined? Like, why is a streak a big deal? So there was a lot of things I didn't know. And I just sort of like got into it from there. And as you're watching every week, you start of understanding like the process and the storylines, and you get attached to the characters. And that was right around the time that Bryan Danielson was like on his ascension.
Yeah.
So I really connected with him. And then as you're Googling Daniel Bryan, you're finding all of these like, oh, what's Ring of Honor?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
what are independent, like, what is independent wrestling? Like, this is insane. There's this whole world that's opened up. So I started like traveling the country to watch wrestling.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I went deep into it. I go 100% in everything I do. There's a trend here. So I got really, really into it. But I had never thought this was going to be something that I did.
Right.
I was very content in my career. I was very content with ballet. I was content with everything else I was doing. And then we were at an indie show in Seattle, and they had announced during like intermission that they were opening a school and we're going to start training. And my husband just looks at me and goes, "I need to do this, or I'm going to regret it the rest of my life." I'm like,
Oh
"Oh,
shit.
okay, cool, great. Well, you go do that. I'll be a supportive wife. I'll go to your shows. It'll be great." And that's literally what we did for a year and a half. Is that he started wrestling, he was doing his gimmick, all that kind of stuff. And right around the time that I turned 30, I left dance for a number of reasons. And I was looking for something else to fill that time. And
Yeah.
I've always loved performing. And because I'm already going to this show every 2 weeks, I have relationships with these people backstage. They know me. So the head ref at this indie was like, "Have you ever thought about refing?" I'm like, "No, why would I do that? That seems silly. Don't you just stand there and yell rules at people?" He's like, "You should try it. I think you'll like it." I tried it. I was terrible. I went in my car and cried after. I'm like, "This is so dumb. I don't
Love
understand
a
what's
good
going
car
on."
cry. There's nothing like a
Right?
good car cry.
It's so just thrilling. I love it. But then I tried it again, tried it a third time, really liked it. They put me on a show 2 weeks later. By the end of the year, I was doing indies in Canada and Oregon. And then within the first year of me refing, I was doing tryouts at NXT.
Crazy. It's so funny to me how like one thing just leads to another, and like now here you are. Like it sounds very simplistic to say it like that, but like it always just blows
Yes.
my mind. I love hearing people's stories like that of just like you follow a path down one way. I mean, even for me getting into wrestling, like it wasn't the thing that I sought out, but all of a sudden I'm like in it and I'm like, wait, I love this. This is great. And you just like, yeah, you go all in, fully commit, and now here we are. Um,
Yep.
okay, so you're in it. Now you get to referee Bryan Danielson matches.
Oh my God. How wild.
Okay, so you have seen your fair share of some like gnarly shit in the ring. Have
Yes,
you
I've worked with your
reached
husband.
yeah, yes. Are there moments that you're going, ooh, I don't know, do I got to throw the X up? Like when you're in those moments and it's just so gruesome and there's so many different things happening, how do you kind of evaluate that during that moment when there's lights, there's cameras, people are yelling, there's so much shit going on? How do you focus on that?
People are yelling in your ear because you're getting
Yeah,
time cues and all this stuff. So there's like you're trying to just maintain this sense of calm
yeah,
and focus. And I think honestly, that's like the big thing when it comes to being a ref on TV, is having that calmness that goes with it. So like, for instance, recently there was the girls match where like Ruby's got that giant crimson mask, right? So in the middle of the match, she's kind of, she doesn't know how much she's bleeding, but she sees the blood dripping onto the mat, and she's like, "Am I okay?" I'm like, "Dude, you look so good right now." Like, I'm just trying to like pump her up. I'm like, just wipe it off your eyes, don't wipe it off your face. It looks good. But there's like a certain level of blood where you have to start being concerned, right? And she
Sure.
wasn't there. But you also have Dr. Sampson ringside. So he's there to sort of
Are
like,
you
if you were to
kind of
come,
gauging him? Like you're kind of giving him the eyes every once in a while to be like, are we cool?
yeah, because there's a lot of things that like I'll see that he won't see. So like if there's a
Sure.
dive to the outside opposite stage, like he may not actually see how that collision happens. So I give him a quick cue of no, 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 they're all okay. So he's watching intently, and then I have a way to communicate to him if anything were to like seriously go wrong. But there's an intensity and a gruesomeness that is okay. So like I've pulled barbed wire out of Eddie Kingston's body when they did that like barbed wire everywhere match.
Been there,
So
girlfriend. Been
oh
there.
my God. Yeah, where you're just like, okay, he literally can't move because he's barbed wired to a board right now. And I have
Oh
to like
my
pull this out
God.
of him on TV. But you can't freak out. The moment you freak out, everyone else freaks out. And
Mm-hmm.
I learned that from management. Like when everyone's worried about project deadlines and everyone's worried about how we're going to get these things done, if you're sort of like, oh man, I don't know what's going on, like everyone else freaks out because you don't believe in it, right? So you have to remain that sense of calm in this chaos so that everyone can kind of stay cool and just focus on their thing, which is telling a story.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
are instances where people do get injured. It's really unfortunate, but we've seen it happen. Like even when people do move thousands and thousands of times, sometimes it just
Sure.
doesn't go right.
Yep.
Gravity is a cruel bitch. Um, but like when those situations happen, you just kind of have to be on top of it and understand like someone's going through something right now. We need to just remain calm. We need to come in, figure out how bad it is. And if the match needs to stop, the match needs to stop. That's what
Yeah.
they do in pro sports. Like when
Yeah.
there's a concussion in football, you just stop the play, they go to commercial. And that's what we should be doing because every injury we have is important and is critical for us to figure out how bad it is and to address it as quickly as possible.
What is your reaction to the criticism that you had received, I guess, in terms of like becoming like a bigger character? We always think of
Mm-hmm.
refs being in the background, you're not really supposed to notice them, and that has not been what your career has been.
No,
So what was your reaction to that initially when that started happening?
I think when it first started happening, it was obviously something that I'm just like, oh, Twitter eventually is going to hate me because I'm a woman. So that's going to just happen. And I'm really good about not listening to criticism that doesn't matter. I listen to constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where I've been focused. Like if Jericho is putting me in a match and he's shoving me and then wants me to shove him back, I'm going to do it
Yeah.
because it's ultimately not my decision. It's his decision because it's his story. And I'm there to help elevate the story that he's telling. So it's not like I tried to be a character. It was just sort of like they figured out that I have a very go-getter personality and very no nonsense. And as people picked me in matches, they're like, "Oh, well, if I shove her, I get a lot of heat for that. So let's do that. Cool, great." And it just sort of happened naturally. But it was never something I intended. It was just something that happened because the wrestlers asked me to do things in matches and I do them.
Have there ever been moments of like other refs giving you shit of like, because you are your own character, like you really do have your own spotlight. Is there ever like any animosity amongst referees for that?
I mean, I get none at AEW because all of the guys are freaking great. Like
Yeah.
they're just all absolutely incredible. But I will hear some criticism online from other referees that are like on the indies and stuff. And I'm like, dude, why are you criticizing people on TV? Don't you want a job? It just
Yeah,
doesn't
calm it
like
down.
I don't focus on the criticism. I just focus on how silly people are. They're like, why are you criticizing something online if you're then shooting me a DM about getting a job at AEW?
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Like, we're
yeah.
not gonna do that. You just shit all over me.
Yeah, the moment has passed.
Yeah.
You are obviously a perfectionist.
Yes.
Stress yourself out. How do you manage perfectionism? I feel like I can struggle with it sometimes too. I don't know if it's like my Virgo tendencies kick in that like I didn't realize I was a perfectionist. I think until a little bit later in life. And now I'm like, holy fuck, loosen up. How do you manage that?
I manage it by knowing that I'm not always in control of everything. So it's hard to strive for perfection when you are not 100% the person that leads to the end goal. Like, as I said, wrestlers are the ones who are telling the story. There's only so much I can do in a match. There's an ability where I can say, okay, well, my performance was really good there, but I could have done these things different. And I feel like you don't have complete control over that because so many other things are happening. Like if the match didn't necessarily go so well, I'm going to feel that. I don't really feel like I can hit perfection because the match wasn't perfect.
Right.
But even then, I think perfection is unobtainable. And once I realized that, now I'm just focused on progress. That how can I be better? How can I improve what I'm doing? How can I be better at my craft? How can I make an impact at this company and in wrestling and be the best version of myself? Because perfection is just, if you try to chase that, you're just going to constantly be disappointed.
Whew, honestly, it's funny. I would always think, I don't know, I'm pretty like laid back. I don't think I'm that personality. And now I'm like, oh my God, bitch, you are. That is
You
you.
are that
Like,
person.
I constantly am like, I try to do everything. I
Yep.
really try to do everything. And I try to do it to like the highest degree. And sometimes I'm just like, yeah, you got to like pick and choose those moments of like when you can just kind of like sit on your heels a little bit. No
Yep.
pun intended.